skeptical about a
Right.
lot of things. And that's
Right.
why I really wanted to talk to you about this.
Yeah, yeah. And that's the very reason I opened my practice too, was I felt like it was such an it wasn't being acknowledged as much as it should be. And the more I did my own research on tongue ties, it was like I opened up this rabbit hole of, oh my God, it can lead to high blood pressure, illness, like just all sorts of autoimmune issues. And I had to know more about it, but I had to also start treating it right away. And the only
Mm-hmm.
way I could do that is if I open my own practice. So I opened my own practice, and you're going to love this part too. The first baby, the first mom that called me was a tongue-tied baby. And I was like, it was meant to be.
It was so meant to
I
be.
know. And I remember when I signed the lease, I was like, I have no business plan. I have no patience. I have no money. I have nothing. I have this whole space and I have no idea what to do. And I get this phone call, and it's this frantic mom. She was like, look, I forget if he was like 3 weeks or 6 weeks old, but she was like,
Wow.
look, I'm desperate. Everybody is turning me away because they don't work with newborns. He's had multiple surgeries already on his tongue tie. It's still an issue. I have no idea what to do. And I said, bring him in. And at this point, I had like one little play mat, one little toy. It was such an empty office, but it was filled with just so much collaboration, so much communication, and so much love. And when I got the history of this little baby, I was just so, my heart just went out to him because he's not even 2 months old and struggling with breastfeeding, struggling with bottle feeding. Mom is having all sorts of anxiety and depression and just all these feelings of what did I do wrong, or what more could I do for my baby? And he had all these surgeries already and it wasn't working. So we had to look deeper into why it wasn't helping him. But, just to kind of dive more into why this is important is I have a lot of props too. So I'm going to start pulling props out
Pull
to
them
show.
out. I'm ready for it. I'm like, I blocked off everything. I was like, we're
Okay.
going to talk about this. We'll
Okay.
break this
So
podcast into twos or threes if we have to. I am all the way in. I'm in this.
I love it. Okay, so tongue tie is, like you said, the layman's term. The medical term is ankyloglossia. So underneath our tongue, I'm going to show you guys this thing. We all have that. We all have a different degree of it under our tongue. So here's our tongue. It's called a frenulum. It can be anywhere. Okay. So here's the really important part is we can't just look at a tongue tie and say, oh, you have a tongue tie, let's do surgery.
Mm.
We actually have to look at what the dysfunction is first. And if that dysfunction outweighs the function, and then we start to attack it through non-invasive stuff. So non-invasive for me, I'm very conservative. Unless it's severe and the baby is absolutely not feeding, not latching on, and they're becoming failure to thrive, then we don't rush to do surgery. The reason why is because a lip tie, a tongue tie, cheek ties, a high palate, and I'll explain all of that too. And a way a baby sucks, swallows, and breathes is it developed in utero already. So for
Mm.
months in utero, they're already developing compensatory habits. And on top of that, they're in a tiny space. So now they're being impacted by just like that gestational flexion. They're kind of stuck wherever, they're limited in their mobility basically. So that adds on to the limitation that they have with their mouth. So when they're born, they carry over those habits to breastfeeding or bottle feeding. So if we jump and do surgery without looking at the full picture, those are the babies then that carry over the same habits. And those are the families where they're just like, we did this surgery, we paid all this money, they're still struggling, what's going on? And of course, there are babies that do well afterwards. Everybody is so different. That's why I tell every family, don't jump to make quick decisions, especially if the recommendation is to do surgery.